Hey guys, so I thought I would bake some cookies today, and I actually showed this on my Instagram page, I think it was last week, because I've been baking every weekend currently. I think it's the Great British Bake Off, because I watched that, has kind of like influenced me a little bit, and I'm like, I want to bake. Also my mum, because she started baking because of the Bake Off, and I was like, you know what, that's actually a really good idea to bake something every week. So I decided to do it again this week, and I'm making cookies again because Bobby really liked them, and I thought I'd show you how. Okay, so here we go. So this is the bowl that I use. I like quite a big bowl because I just find it so much easier to keep everything in. But we're not using that yet. We are going to get the weighing scales. We're going to get a pan because we're going to be warming up some butter. Now it's really important to melt the butter for this because it's easier to mix and it actually makes a massive difference in the consistency of the cookies, because these are going to be ultra chewy, professional style cookies, if I do say so myself. And I like to use Kerrygold unsalted butter. Now I'll be honest, I don't usually weigh everything out, but for you guys I have weighed it out the last time I made it just to make it easier for you. We're going to go with 170 grams of butter. I like to just break it up so it's easier for it to melt. This is a bit hard because I took it out of the freezer earlier. Okay, so we've got 170 grams of butter. We're now going to put this on the heat and melt it. Don't let it over boil or anything, you just want to melt it. So you can see that the butter's melted. You don't want to like let it overheat because it can start to burn. You really want to just let it. Oh, do you know what? I'll tell you the easiest way to do this. Melt it so it's halfway melted and then just leave it off the heat, because it's gonna, the heat that's kind of within this is gonna melt all the butter anyway. You want to leave this to cool now, so we're gonna let that sit on the side and get on with the rest of the mixture. We're gonna put all of the dry ingredients together. You want to get all-purpose flour, so just normal plain flour, and you want to spoon it in and weigh yourself around 280 grams. Now the reason I'm saying spoon it in is because if you were to scoop it out, you pack in, it condenses the powder quite a lot. So in order to get the right measurement, you've got to just spoon it out and level it out in the bowl or whatever you're kind of measuring it in. So you're also going to add into this 1 teaspoon of baking powder. Just make sure it's a level teaspoon. You also want half a teaspoon of salt. We're just going to mix this together and then put that to the side. We're going to get another bowl. This is slightly smaller because we're going to create a separate mixture now. Now you want 250 grams of brown sugar, but I would recommend mixing 2 different types of sugars. So get a kind of like Demerara sugar, like a brown sugar, a standard brown sugar, and maybe do like 100 grams of that and then 150 grams of a kind of really thick, kind of more chunky sugar, if that makes sense. I'm not exactly a professional in sugar, but you know, if you mix sugars together, it's absolutely fine. I didn't manage to find the sugar I wanted today, so I'm just going to use standard brown sugar today, and I'm not mixing any different kind of sugar in with it. You're going to need 2 eggs. We're going to use 1 full egg, and the other one we're only using the yolk. You're going to need vanilla essence, and you're going to need your melted butter. So let's now mix in our melted butter into the sugar. We're just going to mix this together. I keep my sugar in the fridge, to be honest with you. That's why it's all kind of like quite cold and stuck together. Because when you live in a hot country, you really can't leave things like this out. So anything sweet, even my flour, I keep everything in the fridge because it just keeps everything fresh. Okay, so we're mixing that together. We're going to mix in 2 teaspoons of vanilla essence. We're going to mix in 1 egg. And also 1 yolk, so I've taken out the egg white and thrown that. Now we're going to mix this. You've got to make sure that you mix it well and that there are no kind of like sugar lumps. So make sure everything almost becomes like a thin liquid, so it should slowly kind of start to blend in. Now I am all for hand whiskers and everything, but like electrical hand whisks, but I have to admit my best cakes and biscuits anything sweet that I make, the best ones come out when I mix them by hand. I just feel like that's just a really kind of old school way, but it's probably not as quick, but it definitely does come out much better than using an electric way. Because there's always that worry about it kind of like over blending, and it can also end up taking out the air. Like this way you're kind of folding the air into the mixture. Now you're obviously gonna see kind of granules of sugar, but there shouldn't be any kind of like big lumps. So I feel like I can call this a thin mixture now, like it's like a thin liquid. It's like dropping off the spoon really easily, and yeah, I'm happy with that. So now this is where you're gonna put this into the other mixture that we set aside. So if I bring this back, you can see here we've got the flour mixture, it's the dry mixture, and I've got a kind of spatula here, a plastic spatula. That's the best one that I personally think, you know, the best tool to use to really mix, like fold in another mixture. So we're going to pour this in. Now what I generally tend to do is create a kind of like well. So if I just show you, I'm just literally creating a little well, so you've got kind of that space in the middle. Just move the camera so you've got a better view. We're going to now put this in, make sure you get all of this mixture in. Okay, this is where we're going to start folding this into the flour. So folding basically means going round, and then in the middle you separate it. So go all the way around, and then you go through the middle. So create a circle and then slice through the middle. Now this should end up like a kind of doughy mixture, which is quite greasy looking, which is actually the perfect consistency. So you can see it's slowly kind of coming together. You want to make sure you really get all that flour in. Whatever you do, don't mix like this. It's probably the worst way to mix a mixture. So I've been baking for so many years, since I was very young, and it's actually something that I've always done and I've loved. So I just found I've tried so many different ways of kind of mixing and baking over the years and experimented, and I always feel like just going back to basics is always the best way. Like I feel like mixing in this way is obviously a bit of a kind of, you know, takes a bit longer. Oh, see, already my arm is tired. But trust me, they come out really well. So I'm actually going to separate the mixture into two batches, because I actually want to create some dark chocolate ones and then some milk chocolate. So I'm just going to scoop up a whole load of mixture and put it in a small bowl here. That's for me, this bowl here. And I'm gonna leave this big bowl here for Bobby and mix in what he likes. So I'm gonna be adding two different types of chocolate. I've got Lindt chocolate, that's my favorite chocolate and Bobby's favorite. So I'm using 85% dark chocolate for myself, and I'm using white chocolate for him because that's what he likes. I personally prefer dark chocolate, so we're just gonna smash this up. What I tend to do is just get a spoon. There's probably a much safer way to do this, but I just get a knife and just kind of like go like this, and it breaks it into chunks for me. I'm not really fussed about it kind of being equal, but this only works if it's straight out of the fridge, by the way, otherwise it's just too soft. Let's mix this in. So we're just gonna literally mix this in like that. You can put however many you want in. Obviously, if you want it super chocolatey, then add more. Now it is going to be difficult for the chocolate chips to stick to the mixture, but just mix it in as much as you can, and that should be enough. Because we're going to chill the mixture now. It's really important to chill it. You can chill it for minimum, I'd say 2 hours, and you can even go ahead and chill it overnight if you want. So it's completely up to you. The more you chill it, the better kind of consistency you're going to get to roll out and put into the oven. Now let's go ahead and do my mixture, which is the dark chocolate. Okay, as you can see, we've chopped this up. We're going to mix this into this mixture. Should have already got a bigger bowl for myself, but okay, that's as much as I'm going to mix it up, because I can very easily scoop this up together once it's out of the fridge. So now you want to cover these tightly. Again, you're probably only going to have one mixture, I'm assuming. I usually make one mixture, but today I just thought I'd make Bobby the ones that he wanted. So you need to kind of put something tight over it, like cling film or something. Make sure it's really tight around the edges. So I always find that cling film doesn't really stay in place. So what I do is just wrap it round as tight as I can, and then I put a plate over it, and that kind of seals it. So I'm going to do the same with this. Okay, so now that we've sealed these, we're going to put these in the fridge and leave them for a couple of hours. Okay, so we finally are ready to make our little cookies. Now the mixture will be pretty hard depending on how long you've left it in. This is actually the perfect kind of consistency now. So you can see it's just become a bit firmer and it's easier to kind of like roll into little balls. So now what we're going to do is prepare what we're going to actually put this on. So we're going to put that aside. I've got a baking tray ready here. You want to get some baking paper. Just lay it out. You'll probably have to do 2 batches, to be honest, depends how big your oven is. I'm going to put the temperature for the oven on the screen. You want to put it on roughly around now so that it can preheat. Now you want the cookies to be quite thick and chunky, so we're not going to be cutting them. We're actually going to just be rolling them into kind of towers and rolling them into towers, basically. So the warmth of your hands should kind of like create a nice kind of like shape. You want it to look like that. So it's not a round ball, it's a little bit kind of, like I said, it's like a column, and it's totally fine if it's like not kind of even. If anything, I feel like they look better. So we're just gonna do that on all of them and then put them out. That's gonna be quite a big cookie, so I'm probably gonna make different sizes, so that I just feel like it's always better, because then you have the choice of whether you want a big one or if you want a smaller one. I think I'm going to put about 5 of Bobby's ones in, and then I'll put 5 of mine, because I can always make the rest of the mixture tomorrow. I think I'm going to make mine a little bit smaller because I just generally don't eat as much. I like to just kind of press them down just a little bit. Now we're going to pop these in the oven and let them bake. Okay, so I've obviously got 2 sets of mixture left. I might actually mix them together and just use the rest tomorrow, but you want to leave them in for around 12 to 14 minutes. It really depends on how big you've made those cookies. Like if they're quite big, then I would suggest 14 minutes. Now you want to make sure you don't keep opening the oven door, because you're just letting all the air, all the hot air escape, so it affects the way that the cookie bakes. But also, when you do take it out after like 12 to 14 minutes, you may think that they're not cooked because they might look kind of like quite soft, or they might feel very soft. They're still made. Trust me, you've got to let them continue to sit outside the oven and it will continue to kind of like cook internally. But you don't want them to be really brown. You want them to be like kind of like sand color, like they're not supposed to be overly brown. And you want to be careful, because sometimes if they look uncooked to you but you've left them in for a good 14 minutes, they're gonna start kind of getting too hot from underneath and they'll be burnt from underneath. So you've just got to be careful about that. It's kind of like trial and error. Like I feel like, you know, you might overbake them once. Like I've overbaked them once and they were a little bit burnt underneath, but I actually really like burnt stuff. That's really weird. Not stuff, just burnt cookies. I really like the crunch of it. Can I just say that these last really well? Once I bake them, they're great straight out the oven, but oh my God, they taste amazing the next day. So yeah, but I'm gonna keep this mixture and make the rest of it probably day after tomorrow. You can keep this mixture in the fridge for a good few days and it's gonna be fine. And you kind of think that you don't have a lot of mixture, but you actually do have quite a lot. You get quite a lot of cookies. And I think it's because the cookies are quite thick and chunky, so you only need one and you're kind of full. You can mix other stuff into it, like, you know, coconut flakes, different nuts. I think I'm gonna try some hazelnuts in there next time. And maybe some coconut actually, that might taste really good. Or even some like fruits, some like, you know, raspberry and stuff like that, just mix it into it. It will be really tasty. So experiment with it. I really do hope that you enjoyed this. I'm gonna obviously show you what the cookies look like after, when they're out. I've just realized I didn't put a timer on, so I think this has been like a few minutes. So, oh my God, I'm showing you how to bake them. I didn't even put a timer on for how long they're in the oven. So I'm gonna put them in for I'm gonna put a timer on for 10 minutes because I reckon I've been speaking for about 4 minutes. Yeah, it's kind of like a different type of vlog today. I just kind of thought I'd show you, you know, what I'm doing today, and that was baking. So I've been editing in between, so I've had a bit of work to do. Even though it is the weekend, I just need to get a bit of work out of the way. So I thought I'd bake some cookies, create a nice smell around the home, and oh, it just smells so good, doesn't it? I just love baking. I genuinely would be baking as a career if I didn't do what I was doing. Maybe I'll go into that, you don't know. Because I do find it really therapeutic, you know? And the other thing I love is art. So maybe I'll take you on a little art journey with me next time. But in the meanwhile, let's let these bake and yeah, see how they turn out.